Welcome back to the channel, guys. Well, it looks like we did it. That's right, we reached our goal of 1,000 likes in the last video, and that means this is what's in store for us next.
I mean, look at this chip.
Bro, this chip is so scary looking.
This is such a bad idea. It smells so scary. Oh my! Oh my!
Oh my god!
Oh my god, it's so hot. Oh my, I feel like my lungs are on fire. Oh my god, it's so hot.
My stomach, it feels like a cement mixer. With just hot lava in it.
It's burning so bad. Oh.
It's nothing to me. Is that a little? I'm not making a face, though.
Yes, you are.
I'm just coughing. I'm not making a face. I'm just coughing.
That counts as a face.
I'm not making. Ernie, I'm coughing.
I know when you go.
Ernie, I'm coughing. Yeah, this should be making me like, I'm not making a face. Oh, it's hot. Anybody got some milk?
I gotta admit, that looks pretty brutal. Thankfully for me, I've already begun editing this set of hand histories, and so that means the one chip challenge video will be next. Alright, thanks guys, and we'll see you in that next spicy video. So we are back once again at Lucky Chances Casino playing 3-5 no limit, and I immediately noticed that this is going to be a good game as the 1 and 8 seed are doing a lot of interesting things. In my first playable hand, I opened to $20 under the gun with Queen Jack of Hearts. The 8 seat, who's making more calls than an angst-ridden teenager in the 90s, flats, and we pick up a hitchhiker in the cutoff. We go 3 ways to a flop, which comes 9-6-3 rainbow with 1 heart. Flopping 2 overs and a backdoor straight and flush draw, I'm going to be c-betting my range advantage here. I plan to continue barreling on advantageous turns like all hearts and cards 10 or higher. I bet 40 and a 60, and the 8 seat is the only caller. We go heads up to an offsuit 8 turn, giving me the nut gut shot draw. As I'm thinking about betting again, the 8 seed begins pointing to me, letting me know it's on me, and I just get the feeling he's not going to be letting this go here. I eventually check with the intention to fold any reasonable sized bets, and then, after some thought, he hits me with a $30 sizing, which is less than 1/4 pot. Ugh. I think for this price I can't really fold, and now looking back on the hand, I think I would have been better served to just check raise here, since I don't think he's particularly strong. Anyway, I call, and unfortunately the river is an offsuit deuce, which is about the worst possible card to start bluffing on. I check, and he quickly checks behind, tabling ace-8 for calling the flop with no pair, no draw, with someone still to act, and then turning second pair. I'm not really sure check raising this turn ever works unless I bomb the river, and even then he may call. This hand sets the stage for a couple hands we play later on once I realize he likely doesn't even fold his own clothes. Never mind, 2 cards. Jumping right here into the action of the next big pot I play, I'll explain the reasoning behind my pre-flop play a bit later. Our generous friend in the 8 seat opens under the gun at 15 and gets called by the button and the small blind. I 3-bet the big blind 115 with pocket 8s, and the 8 seat is the only caller. Coincidence? I think not. Simulation confirmed. The flop comes 10-8-3 with 2 clubs, so obviously I'm celebrating in my mind as I expect he's never folding anything. If you remember previously, he continued with ace high, so I think we want to find a sizing he will continue for with essentially everything. I decide on a 1 chip $100 bet, which is a little less than half pot and smaller than my pre-flop 3 bet. I think something closer to 75 would have been better. It's not long before I see him reaching for some additional chips. Yum, yum, yum. I'm just hoping they aren't the spicy variety, since we all know what's on deck in my next video. He min raises me to 200, and I think when he does this, he always has something he likes that just won't be folding. I don't need to play tricky, and more importantly, we don't want to just flat and allow some scary turns which might kill action. I expect him to have a lot of draws, top pair holdings, or overpair hands that are calling off. I raise to 500, and he quickly jams. I call off my 350-ish more. The turn is an offsuit 7, and the river is the queen of clubs, completing the most obvious draw. He now tables 9-7 offsuit for the missed straight draw that turned a pair. I table my hand and scoop about a $1,900 pot. As far as my reasoning for 3-betting the 8s here, it's obviously very situational. I know he's playing a ton of hands, and so I expect his raise here to 15 to be very wide. The fact that the other 2 players only called likely caps their range, and so if I can pick up the $45 of dead money, then great. If not, and the 8C calls, well then I like my spot post-flop. Sure, it's going to be a high variance situation, but sometimes you're just going to have to get yourself into these uncomfortable spots where your opponent is going to continue with a really wide and weak range. As we can see here, he's willing to make a really loose call pre-flop, where once he flops a draw, he gets himself into a sticky situation post-flop. If our opponents are willing to make these big mistakes pre-flop, then obviously we want to be punishing them when we have the better hands. Now, 3-betting queens, kings, aces, and hands like ace-king and ace-queen is something I think most players are really comfortable doing. I know it can be really scary to widen our value 3-betting range to smaller pairs or hands like ace-jack suited and king-queen, but if you have an opponent who's willing to gamble with any 2 cards, well, then you just gotta get in there and press those edges. Of course, the final fun hand I played was once again against the 8 seat. There are 2 limps in late position when I look down at pocket kings on the button. Now this is what dreams are made of. As I start to think about what size I want to raise to, I see that the 8 seat in the small blind is already reaching for raising chips, grabbing $15. If I limp, I run the risk of him just calling, as you'll often see someone do this to prevent you from raising, but I think it's worth the gamble in this situation. I've heard some arguments be made that something like this can be seen as dirty, but I think that's absurd. Poker is a visual game. If I believe an opponent is doing something like raising when it's not even on him yet, well then, that's the advantage of paying attention. Like I've said before, there is so much information you can pick up on if you are aware. I limp for $5 and sure enough he raises to $15. The big blind is aware of just how loose he is and 3-bets to $40, which I expect is a wider range than usual, but one he believes is ahead of the 8 seat. It folds back to me, and given that the big blind only has about 300, I'm way more concerned about the 8 seat who has 600. We want to be 4-betting, and I think going on the larger side will ensure we will be getting the rest in on most boards. If the big blind wants to get it in as well, then that's great. Also, I think we have to consider just how ridiculous our hand looks after limping the button with 2 late limpers. I make it 200, which looking back is probably a tad too big. Something like 150 should have done the trick just as well. My friend in the 8 seat is never one to disappoint, and he quickly jams all in for about $600. The big blind folds quickly, and I table my hand. The flop comes king 9-9, and that's likely going to close the books. I don't even remember what the run out was, but he shows us that he had pocket 6s. With that hand, he is off into the night. Or day. Stop being so specific. I play a few more hands, and it's once again time for me to pick up my son Charlie. For once the timing is great, as the game has lost 2 of the action players. Alright, so we ran really hot, won $1,092, obviously a good session given that I can only play a couple of hours. Alright, we'll see you in the next video.